Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about some trailers. So it's three different trailers we'll be talking about, including What If, Visions, and also the new Disney movie Enchanto. We'll also be talking about San Diego Comic-Con and loads of reviews. We're going to talk about Loki, Monsters at Work, Black Widow, and a whole lot more. But before we jump into any of that, quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. You can like and follow us on Twitter and Facebook to keep up with all of our latest news. We've also got a mailing list as well over on the website if you wish to do so. This podcast is supported by our supporters on Patreon and YouTube channel members, where you can become a member from as little as $2 a month. You get early access to some of our review videos. You also get to support us. You get your name at the end. And so a big thank you first off now to our members of the Gold and above, including Sarah. Thank you very much for all of your support. We've also got Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Red Mars Man, Andrew, Cody, Darren, The Juice, Lauren, and James. While then over on YouTube, we've got Bad Dog Gamer, Johnny T, Jay, we've got Raphael, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn. We've also got Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. And if you're a YouTube channel member, you also get access to our weekly Q&A live chat. You can join in with that, and both Patreon and YouTube channel members can ask questions for the weekly Q&A, which happens on Sundays. So there we go. So that is the bit of housekeeping. Kind of a bit of a strange week with July the 4th. It was like a little bit light on news, and then we've had a little bit of news. It's been a bit all over the place compared to normal. But we did get a number of trailers. So last weekend there was the Anime Expo, and they showed off the first look at the upcoming Disney Plus series Visions, which is a collection of shorts done by studios in Japan called Star Wars Visions. And very different. These are non-canon, these are just way out there, kind of off in the distance, nothing to do with Star Wars, but all to do with Star Wars. And I saw these and I was instantly like, yes, more of this, please. I just think we're going to be getting all, I don't know how many shorts we're going to be getting. We're going to get all of them on the 22nd of September. They're not stretching them out or anything like that. And for me, I just saw this a lot of fun. Some of them are going to be good. Some of them are going to be crazy. Some of them are going to not know what they are. But for me, this is exactly what we should get. Something different. Let something else happen with Star Wars. Because I think in some ways, Star Wars has been a little bit guarded in keeping everything the same, keep moving. I think this is like the first step in them kind of allowing a little bit more freedom. What did you think of that trailer?
It's an interesting trailer. A lot of different styles being shown off there too, which is one of the hallmarks of modern anime, I think. I don't know too much modern, but we get like these anthology things all the time. I know Batman had one a number of years ago. Obviously, The Matrix had one. Digging way back.
Yeah.
We've seen Marvel ones before. I know there was like an Iron Man anime. I think the X-Men have had an anime, things like that. And Disney has a very interesting relationship with anime companies, because we've got like Kingdom Hearts, which sure, it's a video game, not a cartoon project, but very similar in scope and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. And I think the fact that they are disconnecting it from continuity means that they don't have to worry about story quite as much, because you don't have to, establish the characters. You don't have to worry about how they fit into anything. You can just go, all right, we're going to have two guys with lightsabers and they're going to fight for 5 minutes straight in some of the most crazy action sequences you've seen.
And then there's also like one with like a bunny as a Jedi, and there's all kind of like weird looking ones.
Yeah, so the bunny is weird because historically there was that old Marvel comic series, no longer canon. We're talking from like the 70s and 80s, and there was a bunny in there. A different design than what we saw here, but close enough that you kind of go, inspired by it. I believe the original was also not a Jedi, but it's an interesting nod towards that old Star Wars series.
As someone that grew up on Bucky O'Hare, I don't have a problem with it. Do you remember Bucky O'Hare? Yeah,
the name is familiar to me. I did not.
It was a cartoon series when I was a kid. It was all about a hare that was in space, and it was a full-on action. It's kind of like I think it was maybe around the time of Jason the Wheeled Warriors and Biker Bikes from Mars.
I remember the Biker Mice. Yeah.
So there's all those kind of things. But yes, for me, I liked this, and it was just like, this is just fun. This is something different, and I'm kind of in some way liking that. I'm liking the idea that they can kind of stretch out try something different out. I hope we get more of this. There are lots of questions as well about, should Disney start buying up some anime? Because anime's been really popular on Hulu. Should they buy some studios to do some more content? And I'm thinking, let them, let them work with them, do something different, let them come up with some different stories. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think having it like non-canon as well allows more flexibility for freedom. Because not everything has to be canon, and I think that's the issue sometimes we do get, if it gets a little bit too caught up then in trying to make everything link up. And yeah, I just thought this was great. I mean, I love them this as well. Let them work on some other franchises. Let them do some Disney stuff. Let them do some Marvel. Let them, stretch out their wings a bit and do some different stuff. Different kind of content's great. I think that's the key thing. We don't want everything always the same. And I mean, I haven't watched anime for a while, but I know when I was a teenager, I used to watch loads of it. Loads of manga things used to be released over here as well, and I used to, record them all at night. I think like Legend of the Dragon. I can't remember exactly, but I used to watch loads of anime when I was a teenager. Just kind of grew out of it. But I can appreciate. I do appreciate at least that that there's a big market for it.
Yeah, I watched someone as a kid. I watched stuff I probably should not have watched as a kid, because I grew up watching like Ghost in the Shell and Akira,
Yeah.
which not kid friendly at all. I watched them a bit later when they were on Adult Swim, I think it was, or one of those late night cartoon things. And then we had Gundam Wing and Cowboy Bebop and things like that. I haven't watched anime since Full Metal Alchemist was the original Full Metal Alchemist was coming out, so it's been a while. Every once in a while you catch something or other, but it might be an interesting introduction into it, or reintroduction for many of us. I know it's super popular at the moment. I know HBO Max has their little section of it. Hulu has it as well. But to go back to one of the questions you asked there, should Disney buy one of these companies? And then like, no, because it's such a massively crowded market based on, because I did a little bit of quick research, just like what's the new anime out? And it's like, apparently it's all coming out like literally right now. Like we're in the middle of the new season, and there's something like 40 or 50 new anime coming out right now. And just like, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
No, I just feel like, if they could get an anime, even if they can just get a few a year, just something, maybe use some of their popular franchises and kind of tap into that and kind of give us something different. I don't, there's a lot of Disney animation make a lot of TV series, but it'd be nice to kind of have something a little bit fresh. I mean, the thing is, Disney's had a lot of they had a lot of success with Pokemon on the Disney Channel. That was one of their shows that did very well. It wasn't one of theirs, but they obviously saw the data coming through. I think they don't know if they did. There's probably some other ones and stuff they've watched, but again, I've not been keeping up with what they've been watching.
Disney had Pokemon for a while.
Yeah, Disney. The Disney Channel had Pokemon. I think up to recently, so they didn't have this. I mean, they were even on Pokemon was even on Disney Now in the US. So they've been a big part of it. And I think now like Netflix has a lot of the deal with Pokemon. But
I definitely see Pokemon popping up. And wouldn't you like to watch Pokemon Journey Adventures of I do like Pokemon. I've never got into the anime for it though.
Yeah. Well, I kind of isn't Pokemon just mainstream anime?
At this point I'd almost not consider it anime. It's like the new series is coming out. Oh well, it'll be over here in a couple weeks. But I mean, I mostly stick to the video games anyway.
Yeah, but so there we go. So that's Vision. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Also, kind of in the same vein, we got the first full trailer for Marvel's What If, which is going to be coming on August 11th. That'll probably be it's going to be a weekly release. I'm not holding out on the fact that we might not get two to begin with, but I think because it's Marvel, probably less likely. So we got the first trailer, and we got a poster, and we've been seeing stuff revealed with like some of the pop vinyls and the Lego sets over the past few weeks ahead of it. For me, this show looks bonkers. It looks very different. I wasn't too keen on the art style of the Tony Stark bit at the beginning, but as the episode went on, I kind of was digging the art style, but I found it a bit jarring to begin with, and then kind of got into it. But a load of weird, wacky stuff going on in this one. Really kind of being able to lean in on doing something a little bit different. I'm loving this. I've always been a huge lover of the What If comic books. They've always been ones I've been drawn to for I think I've been reading those ones on and off for like 20 years. I think I always liked as well that they were one-offs. when you went into that comic book store and you had 1,000 Marvel comic books in front of you, there was that kind of feeling of the What If one was always like, I can buy that one because it doesn't matter what I've read before, or it's a one-off, and I always like that. And I think that always was a big part of it. And I've read quite a load of them on Marvel Unlimited as well.
Yeah, the what ifs are always fun. I don't think all of them you can read kind of on their own. They're definitely ones that maybe require you to look back at the original series. I don't think that'll be a problem with the you call it cartoon. I don't with this series that's coming up. But you do always get yeah. Like the beginning of the trailer, you've got Iron Man 1. It's very clearly he's in the Humvee from Iron Man 1, and they recreate the whole scene, and you're like, you can watch it without having seen the movie. But if you see the movie, you'll see where the fork point comes, and you'll be able to go, oh, well, how does everything change because this one particular thing changed? And that was always the fun part of the comics, because they would pick major events, like what if this character got this person's powers instead, or if this character had died in this situation or had not died in this situation. And they just have so much fun with them, especially when you have a writer who clearly loves the stories. And that's what they did back in the day too. Like you would have what if Jean Grey had not died in the event that would eventually become the Phoenix situation, and they had the original writer writing the what if. So someone who was intimately familiar with the story and could then just riff on it and have fun with it. And I think that there'll be a certain aspect of that to this as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, if the numbers are good for this one, this is a series that you can just keep running and running and running. It never runs out. It's a franchise thing that they can just do. There's been a lot of talk this past week of some of the voice actors like not returning, like Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Brie Larson. There was a few others, and people are kind of going, "Whoa!" It's like, well, it's an animated series. They don't need them. That's the key thing with an animated series is, and also keeps the cost down. I mean, if the costs are too expensive, that's different. Some actors probably are more likely to do it than others. For me, it's an animated. It's like they've got as many as they possibly can. Great. But I could do this series without, as long as they're close enough to it, it wouldn't really matter to me at all. But no, I'm really looking forward to this one. This was definitely, I feel like, while I know it's technically not part of obviously it's not a normal MCU show, but the fact that this is Marvel Studios doing it kind of levels it up for me. It's not a Disney Channel show. I grew up watching the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s. We had that one. We had the Batman. We grew up on that era of having some great animated series, and then some of them drifted off and some of them didn't. But I think this one's going to be a big hit, and I think also just the idea that they're all individual stories. They're going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some. I mean, you've got like a weird one, like Spider-Man has got like the I don't know if he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
It certainly looks like he is.
That looked pretty cool. You've also got just Loki there doing a load of weird stuff, and Gamora, and I think the idea that T'Challa is Star-Lord, that's kind of really strange. I think that's going to be like the last we see of Chadwick Boseman. He has to be his last performance for Marvel, which this could be like a really like different thing of it being so different, which I think could be very interesting. Yeah, just as a whole, I'm just really looking forward. And the trailer, like I said, once I got past Tony Stark at the beginning, I liked the look of it, but it was a bit like, I don't know if it was like shades. I don't know what it was. There was just something about that at the beginning, but other than that, the animation looks great. I can't wait to watch it. Gonna be different, and I know it's going to cost me a fortune in Lego sets.
They're already revealing them. I know Peggy Carter it has you can get her with the Captain America shield.
Yeah, they
stuff like that.
And the good thing as well, and this is the great thing, and I'm going to be honest, those sets come out on like the 1st of August, and the series comes out on the 11th, as opposed to like everything else which they do of where they all come out months afterwards. Like the Bad Batch set, which I'm waiting for in August, is like, get these things out, But yeah, that's nevertheless. But what if that'll be coming on August the 11th with new episodes? I believe it's a 10 episode series, so that'll be then running then right through probably till October. So I'd imagine, if we probably that would be Hawkeye, and then leading into Miss Marvel. So I think we're pretty much in line to have Marvel pretty much nearly And Loki finishes in what next week's
week.
next end of, so I don't think it's a bad idea to give us a little bit of a break.
No, and then of course we have Black Widow just came out this past week
Yeah.
too. So there's plenty of Marvel content. It's a good time to go back and rewatch some stuff, or even just check some of the other stuff out on Disney Plus. We'll talk about the Mysterious Benedict Society. That's a great one that's getting kind of overlooked. One last thought on the What If line itself. I know a lot of people are super excited for Marvel Zombies showing up there. That's got to be pretty high on your radar, considering you've been binging The Walking Dead lately.
Yes, I will admit I am just about finishing season 6 of The Walking Dead, because they all came to Disney Plus last week, and I'm kind of I've binged for at least 2 seasons on Disney Plus, because we're going to be getting the 11th season in end of August. It's really funny. I was over at my friend's house last night, and they were just going back and rewatching The Walking Dead, and we're having this full-on discussion because they were loving the fact, because obviously they're ahead of me, but they've been trying to get us to watch it for years, and they're like, oh yeah. And so we had a full-on conversation last night about it, and it is one of those things of, I know there have been a lot of comments on social media, like people going, why it's like, well, it's on it, it's Disney have the rights to, and so they're announcing stuff. And yeah, so I've been really enjoying a load of zombie stuff the last couple of weeks. It does feel a bit odd, I'll be honest. It still feels a thing, but yeah, if they're Disney watching my account, they'll just see just binge watching the Walking Dead. That's what I've been had on in the background. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that one. Speaking of The Walking Dead, let's now move on to a completely different topic. So we got another trailer this past week, Enchanto, which is a new movie coming out from Walt Disney Animation Studios. That'll be coming out for Thanksgiving this year in middle of November. First trailer, a house, and basically everyone that lives in the house or in the village, they all have a special unique gift. They all basically have a superpower, or they can do something. And then there's this one girl who can't do anything. She doesn't have a power, and they're all kind of like trying to work out what it is. And the music looks pretty cool. Lin-Manuel is doing the music for this one, which he said, so I think at the minute he seems to be having a little bit of a up and down moment. He's like having some really good ones and then some like not so. I'm going off Moana, and Miss Mary Poppins Returns. I loved a load of music from that one. So looking forward to this one. But what did you think of that trailer?
That was a really good trailer. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It gave me vibes of The Incredibles for multiple reasons, not just because it's super people of some sort or other, but the animation style reminded me of it too. And I kind of like that idea of following the unpowered person in a group of powered people and finding what makes them special. And I hope they have an actual message to it, and not just like you're special because you're you and unique individual. I'm hoping that there's something more to it than that. But the trailer looks good. I laughed a couple of times in the trailer, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, as well as that, I mean, you got the whole kind of again with Coco, a bit of a different kind of music. I just sort of watched this, was like, yes, I'm in. This is exactly, again, something fresh, something new, something different. I'm totally in on this one. And yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit more trailers and stuff to see, because I don't know, we don't really have a clue where the story's going with it. Kind of like that Coco vibe as well, kind of with it as well. And yeah, just really looking forward to it. It's kind of like weird. I've watched it a couple of times. I'm like, I still don't know where this one's going, but I just loving the idea they've all got these different superpowers and different things. She's bound to have something. I'm sure she's got some special thing that she can do that they don't really know she can do. But at the same time, it's supposed to like represent all of us. She's just a Hawkeye of the family. That's what it
is. So she's gonna shoot a bow and arrow, and Loki's gonna catch it and think he won, and then boom, it's gonna explode in his face. That is the climax of the movie. Sorry, you don't have to watch it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, and then there'll be a sing along. So that was looking pretty cool. So let's also talk this week. It was revealed that Marvel Studios will not be taking part in San Diego Comic-Con at home. Also, DC and Warner Brothers won't be taking part. It was a bit of a kind of weird one, because there was a lot of talk about Marvel not being there. Now, Marvel have skipped the event in the past. Now, Disney has actually announced that they're going to be having a load of panels there. There'll be one for the Mysterious Benedict Society. There's going to be a load for the 20th century animation shows, Family Guy, The Simpsons, etc. And it's kind of the whole thing, really, like Marvel skipping it, and people kind of going, well, why are they skipping it? Don't they need to be there? And it's like, well, if they've not got a big it's a virtual event this year in July. Why would they want to be? I mean, yeah, they could maybe do a panel for Black Widow or Shang-Chi, but the problem simply is the online Comic-Con things do not get the same attention that the mainstream ones do, because ultimately it's just a Zoom call, and that has a limited reach of who it gets to. And Marvel can do something much better than, just do something like that. They can do their own little thing. And I was like, even before the whole situation we're in now, it always felt a bit like Marvel going to San Diego Comic-Con and doing the big hall presentation and stuff. Like next year, Disney are holding, they've got Star Wars Celebration in May, and then they're going to have D23 in August. So why go to San Diego Comic-Con? They don't need to. They can do it all themselves. I'd much rather Disney kind of did the opposite thing, go make D23 annual and do their own thing every year, or do a lot of people pointing out with the Disney Investor Day how much publicity they got from doing their own live stream for 4 hours, back in December. I mean, that was massive. That one was exploding with people watching that one back. And Disney have proven that they don't need these big events. The same has been said a lot in the video game sphere with E3, of them going digital the last 2 years, and Sony sitting out. And there's a whole thing now of people looking at these big events and going, why are we sending, we don't need to do all this, we can do it all through YouTube and streaming. And you don't get the same atmosphere, but you don't have to pay another company to do it when you can do it yourself.
Yeah, and the big thing, of course, is the digital part of it. It's, as you said, it's basically a Zoom call, because there's a very big difference about going to an actual convention, being in a convention hall. I've been to San Diego Comic-Con, I've been to MegaCon, Baltimore Comic-Con, a number of other ones. There is an energy in those places, and you get swept up in it, and you go to the panels, and even if it's something you normally wouldn't be interested in, just the energy in the room really gets to you. You don't have that at home. You don't have that with a Zoom call. And more often than not, for video games, comics, movies, all of this, I don't even bother with the call most of the time. I will, if it's Disney related, I'll go on to what's on DisneyPlus.com and I'll read the summary of it. If it's not Disney related, then I'll go to like whatever site's covering it and just get the bullet points. Oh, this game was announced. They showed a trailer for that. Oh, that sounds interesting. I'll check that one out. It's just completely different. And of course, San Diego is one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one, for comics or comic-based media. I don't think it's really been about comics for a couple of years now. Well, maybe a decade, honestly. But it is still big for the movies. DC loves to show off their movies there, including the animated ones. Marvel has traditionally shown them off. But what is it in the current environment? It's just a trailer that you then get to have people talk about for a little bit. That it's completely different.
DC are doing their own DC fandom. They did that one last year, and that was a big hit. And they're returning for that one back in October. The thing is, San Diego Comic-Con are trying to kind of do another event at Thanksgiving this year, and there's been a lot of people not happy with that for a number of reasons. First off, doing it over Thanksgiving weekend when a lot of Americans haven't seen their families. And so therefore they had to skip last year. So this year they actually want to be with their family. And obviously not everyone, it's different. There's a lot of other talk about the fact that actually talent won't want to go to it because it's over Thanksgiving, that they'll want to spend time with their families. And just doing it at a random time. And there's a lot of other people questioning the idea of running these events at this, with what's going on. Now, I've always wanted to go to San Diego Comic-Con, but it's always been that kind of one of, is it, if you can you get in, all the rest of it. I know, like with D23, I am planning on going to that one next year. I have been to a Star Wars Celebration in the past, and I'm planning on going to. I won't go to next year because they're both in LA within like 2-3 months of each other. But there is that kind of thing of these events do bring in a lot of people, and there's a lot of excitement. I would regularly go to the one of the big video game ones over here in the UK. So I completely understand why they do them. But ultimately now the trouble is they've actually got this, essentially they have to stream these shows. They have to put them out there because people at home it's one thing showing them to a group of people in a room that's paid to be there. But if you want to get that buzz out, you've got to get that trailer out. You've got to live stream the panel or something. And I wish they did that more, rather than you end up watching it through somebody else's Periscope or something, because I remember doing that in the past. And I just feel like, right, with these big events, there's there is a place for them, but at the same time, the technology is making it so there's less likely. And they ultimately, quite a few people say, San Diego Comic-Con needs Marvel. Marvel doesn't need San Diego Comic-Con, and that's the big issue there.
I kind of agree with that, but not entirely. I do think that Marvel creates a bigger draw for San Diego than San Diego creates for Marvel, but it is also important that Disney not get stuck within their own sphere. D23 is great. Star Wars Celebration is great. I'm sure they're going to try and do something with Marvel at some point in a similar fashion. But you do need to reach out to the people who don't live in the Disney blogosphere, who don't watch shows like this, who only know about the Marvel shows or the Marvel movies because they catch trailers at the theaters. We'll come back to that point. Or through panels at San Diego or wherever, one of the big conventions. Because when you're at the Disney D23, it is specifically Disney fans. You're in the Disney environment, and it can be very easy to forget that actually only covers a small portion of the market that Disney is trying to reach.
I think it's about like Star Wars Celebration, it pulls in a lot of people. We have to be pretty involved in it. But it's a strange they've not really kind of gone down the full like Marvel doing their own one. I'm surprised they've not kind of worked that one out. But we probably might see something different. I'm
sure they've thought about it, and I'm sure COVID kind of maybe put some of those plans on hold. We might have seen one under normal circumstances.
Yeah, so hopefully at some point we'll find out soon. But let us know what you think of all that in the comments below. Let's now move on to some of this week's reviews because we've got loads of them. So what we're going to do, we're going to do Black Widow last because we might want to get into some spoilers on that one. But we'll do Loki first because Loki was like 4 days ago. So it's one of those weird ones that now go, well, it's been out enough. So we got this new episode of Loki, set in some weird apocalyptic version of the future where after you get pruned, you get sent to this place to die from this big fog monster. And it's really funny with this episode because it was like full of action, I actually did have to go and turn the HDR settings off on my television because I couldn't actually see what was going on very well. But
interesting.
It just felt really dark. I just had to adjust the settings on it, and I find that sometimes with Disney Plus, the settings on can get quite dark on some of these shows. I have to close the curtains and everything, blinds, to watch Loki because it's quite dark. I enjoyed this episode. There's lots of craziness. It did kind of get to the end of it, and I was like, so really nothing happened. It was like really strange one of like going, okay, so they did all that and the fog cleared and they can now see the building. And I'm like, and they actually think, if you take away all the noise, it was just like, actually nothing happened.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. The noise is the episode in this case, whereas the other episodes have kind of mixed it in with the story while also tossing out the little Easter eggs and the references for people. This one very much was, all right, we're going to have 45 minutes of tossing every Easter egg we can possibly think of into the mix. I mean, you got everything in there. And then we'll have 10. The Thanos copter is the obvious one. Throg being another one. There's a lot in there. And then the last 10 minutes are, okay, we'll fight the fog monster. We'll beat the fog monster up. Old man Loki will have his moment to shine. And then we're setting up for the final apocalyptic battle in the final episode where we'll burn everything to the ground, or at least Owen Wilson will. So.
There's loads of it that was fun. I mean, I did kind of have Harry Potter vibes when he turned up in the little car, in the little mini, and I did like that whole aspect. And obviously him showing up, kind of the idea, okay, so he's not gone either. The variant Lokis, the one thing I did like the idea of the variant. I just wish more of them actually were Tom. I had this bit of an issue of why are none of these variants looking like him but one. It just, when they opened it up, it would have had a little bit more impact had there been a few different versions of him. Because this whole idea is like, well, why does every single variant doesn't look anything like him? I know they can do that, but some of them they just look like a random load of thugs they've just picked up. I don't know if it would have had more impact if there'd been a few of them. That was my
right. Yeah, because we only had regular Loki, our
Yeah,
protagonist Loki, and then running for president
yeah.
Loki were played by Hiddleston. The rest were played by random people. And I mean, he might have done the voice for the alligator, maybe. I don't know. I don't
I
think he
mean,
did.
I think you could at least kind of look at like Richard E. Grant is the older version of him, and you could look at the
Right.
kid one and go, well, he's just a younger version of him. So it's it. But I would have liked a few more Toms in there just to kind of
Right.
make it a little bit more look like the variants. And then obviously Sylvie's look at, it was just my one issue with it of why do they all look so different? I mean, whether or not they're setting that up, you know, it's a great way of changing the cast now for anyone.
Well, and it leaves open the possibility that the other characters that we've met in this series, up to and including Owen Wilson, are in fact variants of characters that we already know. But we'll come back to that next week when hopefully all is revealed. And in regards to that, it does feel like the idea of the variants is fairly arbitrary at this point. Like, I know they hand waved away the whole Avengers Endgame time travel
Yeah.
thing in the first episode, but you're like, seriously, what makes this a variant versus other things? At least with some Lokis, you can go, okay, well, this is the Loki that survived Thanos because he ran away. Other ones is like, well, he just happened to kill Thor. There was no like major event. He killed Thor. That's what happened. And it's like, but how is a variant? What triggers a variant? Because it seems like there is no trigger to the variant. It's just, oh yeah, he actually succeeded in killing Thor. There was no intervening moment. It happened.
It would be like, to me, like, well, Sylvie would have been a variant the second she was born, so that would have been
Right. Yeah, exactly.
that would have been it. So I don't know. That's my only issue with that one. But I'm really
There-
enjoying
there's-
this. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's absolutely great. Of course, there's the other line as well. That the whole thing with this keeping this timeline sacred, that might be a lie as well. We now got to everything that the TVA have told us might not be true. And that's the key thing as well, of them trying to prune everything and keeping everything in place. Maybe that doesn't exist either.
Yeah, there's a lot that they need to cover in the final episode next week. I know I am super excited for it. I actually have Wednesday off, not for the show. It just happened to work out that way. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm taking advantage of this fact. I'm watching this first thing on Wednesday.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watch them pretty much bank because they come out at a good time for me. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Loki. It does seem on a completely different level than what we've seen so far. It does feel like we're watching a movie, and I mean, there's some stuff there with Black Widow that I want to get into later. But for me, Loki really is just been. It has. I mean, the viewing numbers on this are amazing. A lot of people talking about it. Just on the whole, it's just on another level, and it is crazy. I will say the show feels like it feels very different from those first couple episodes. As the TVA have become less important, as it's kind of like, I mean, when you talk about craziness, this is a show that's crazy. I mean, it is all over the place, and then you kind of think, how this all interconnects with everything else of just like, there is no, it's so much more bonkers than WandaVision ever was. It is, you got alligators.
I mean, alligator Loki, Throg. I'm all in on that, and then all the various like Loki backstabbings going on in this episode. But it is interesting because you go back even to like episode 2, and we talked a lot about how episode 2 is literally just Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston talking for like 40 minutes. They're in a library reading books for almost the entire episode, and then you have this episode and the previous episode, which are just completely off the wall, like. Just everything falling out of the sky, in some cases literally, bonkers action coming from everything, special effects going through the roof for a television show. I mean, obviously, like the smog monster, the first time I saw it at the beginning of the episode, I was like, this is a television show? What?
It was good.
They did a really good job with the special effects.
It was definitely a cool little thing. But yeah, so that was Loki. Let us know what you thought of that episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I'm really looking forward to this final one. Let's now talk about the Mysterious Benedict Society. So this one here was the 4th episode. Again, such a kooky little show. I'm loving the visual effects of this, the visual style of it. Sort of set in the 70s, old school, where things can't be fixed with technology. That's the thing I'm really liking about it. It's like, they all got it just does. But also, and I'm gonna say, this was the first episode where I know they filmed the entire lot outside that are within the pandemic, but it was the first time I felt like there's a lot of outdoor scenes, and there was like some CGI things of not having them in the same room. I think a few times it felt like a little bit, and I'm going to say that if you think this is about High School Musical, the music of the series this week was literally a quarantine video. No one was even in the same room together, and it was very much. I felt with the Mysterious Benedict Society that I don't know if they've changed it. There seemed to be a lot more stuff happening outside, and I don't know if that was they had to make some changes.
Well, it's not even just that things happen outside. Like you look in the classrooms, and they're very clearly widely spaced. Now it fits within the aesthetic of the show, where you can go, oh, it's just one of those quirky things that they do at this school. But you really look at it, and like those desks are at least 6 feet apart. They're staggered. It's not even like in a straight line. A lot of the indoor shots are solo shots or just the 4 kids, presumably the 4 kids, you know,
like a bubble or something.
The quarantine bubble group. But I mean, a good section of this episode was just Sticky stuck in a weird room.
I love that room.
That room was great. I loved that their torture of Sticky was literally just, your chair is uneven, the clock doesn't tick at a normal rate, the aquarium is on a tilt so the water's not level with the top. It's like, and it's driving him bonkers. I just like that.
It was very good. I really enjoyed. There's something about this series. It's like I can't quite put my finger on it. Of like, I love the fact that it's just a bit different. It's a bit. I keep going back to the word kooky. It's just it feels different, and I'm really liking that about it. You know, the whole way that they're all doing stuff, and you know, everyone's a bit of odd, and all the adults are a bit strange as well. They're all a bit odd, and I like that. There's something about this series which is it's very charming, and it's a little bit slower. It's a little bit slower than I thought. It seemed quite fast. The first episode was very like, but there's not really been a lot of action. There's not a lot, so I don't know if kids are going to get a little bit bored of it. But I'm really enjoying it. It's a very, I think this one's going to be an underrated series, and hopefully some people will check it out because it's so different, but it's so fresh and original as well.
Yeah, and we're only halfway there. I mean, I think there's 8 episodes for this, and this was episode 4. While it is a bit slow in terms of like, you know, there's no action scenes, there's no fighting, and there's been a couple small ones. The first episode, of course, had second episode had like the whole maze and whatnot. But it's more cerebral than say the Marvel shows are. But it is still progressing. Like we had significant plot progression here. You know, Mr. Benedict himself is doing important things. The 2 women are advancing their characters. We're getting hints of what the older janitor, outdoorsy person,
Milligan,
what's going on with him.
I think it's
something like that. We know that there's something weird with him. He's lost his memory, and he's slowly kind of getting hints of what it is back. And then, of course, the 4 kids themselves are developing their personalities. I'm really starting to like Constance quite a bit. The quirky youngest girl who's just completely unlike the other 3. She has a lot of personality.
It's just as a whole, it is becoming it's just a fun series, and it is great. And I am really enjoying this series. And it's that kind of thing of it's just something a little bit fresh, and it's while it's set in a school, it doesn't feel like they're in a school in that same way. It doesn't. They're not having all the traditional like high school drama and stuff that we're getting in the other shows. It just feels very kind of out on its own compared to some of the other Disney Plus originals. I definitely would recommend people check that one out.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to say Love, Victor and High School Musical, which are both very much enmeshed in this love triangle or figuring out what love is. And this one is just like, no, these kids are weird and they're having fun and they're doing dangerous things.
Did you watch this week's episode of Love, Victor?
I did watch this one.
Yes. A very different tone, isn't it?
Let's not talk about this one too much, because I don't think we can talk about it and keep this show PG.
No, it's very much along the lines of this is where Love, Victor feels like it was like we're no longer, because the original series was always made for Disney Plus, and then they moved it to Hulu because they felt that it didn't quite fit. Well, the second season definitely feels along the lines of we're not making it for Disney Plus anymore. We can push the boundaries a little bit more, making it a much better show and a bit more realistic with teenagers. Yeah, but this one here is where they all head off, all the couples head off to a cabin, to get the jiggy on, and that's basically it. And how
that
they all
is
kind of
literally the plot.
that's literally the plot. And it's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to next week when I start getting new episodes, because I haven't watched it for like 4 weeks, and Love Victor to me is almost that kind of thing. It's actually, I would say, the most interesting of the high school shows, because it treats the high school stuff like more like it really is. It's a little bit, obviously a bit more, I think, but out of all the ones that we've had on Disney Plus, because obviously internationally it is on Disney Plus, it just, I don't know, it just feels a bit more real. There's some real problems and some real issues that they're dealing with, and the second season has really kind of edged up what they're doing. I think that was this past week's episode was the best out of the 4 I've seen so far. I really enjoyed it.
It was really good, and it did tackle some very tough subjects. Not tough in the same way that we've had traditionally with this, but teenagers exploring what it means to be an adult or a teenager, and handling it pretty maturely. It gets a little convenient at points. It wraps things up with a nice little bow in a happy way, but it doesn't shy away. And I think they do a good job of discussing the issue and advancing various relationships. Not one relationship very specifically, but that's still an important point. And they still managed to stick some humor in there without it being cringy, which is actually, given the subject matter, really difficult to do.
Then we had High School Musical series, which this one was, they were all on spring break and all in quarantine and all doing it through Zoom calls. They ended up doing a Zoom like presentation, and there was a couple of nice songs, and Gina was stuck in an airport with a guy who I recognized him from the Andy Mack show, so I think they used to work together on that. Again, I mean, the whole thing, I think Ricky had a really interesting, he had some couple of songs, he was like dealing with his mum and everything changing and losing, and I thought there was a good couple of scenes with him. But overall, again, just another episode where you kind of got to the end and went, I was 40 minutes where nothing is, this felt, and again, them all doing all this Zoom stuff, it was like they extended the season by 2 episodes, and this was an episode that just didn't need to exist. It just didn't. It's a strange one. There just seems to be no hype about this series at all. I did do some polls and stuff to see if people are watching. About half the people aren't, half them are. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of hype about this series. And you'd think with, they've been pushing it a lot more, but it doesn't seem to be. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna be, like I said before, I'm not really enjoying this second season anywhere near as much as I like the first one. There's still some great songs and some great performances in here. But if you take that out, you can watch them on YouTube. If you watch the 2 performances on YouTube, you don't need to watch the show because nothing else happens. You can just watch those 2 and then you're fine. So that one was a little, again, I'm kind of at the point now where like, let's just get this show to the end. Let's just get it to the end and be done. Also, we had a new Simpsons short, the Good, the Bart, and the Loki. Short would be the word for it. This felt like, it ended, and then we ended up with like a load of random scenes that have like almost like the stuff they wanted to do but couldn't. But what did you think of it?
Honestly, the TVA scene in the post credits was the best part of the thing. Did you saw that part of it? Right? Yeah. That, because otherwise it was literally just like a clip show. It was okay. Loki gets sent to Earth and he shows up at the Simpsons, and Homer really likes him, and then it's like, okay, here's a whole bunch of Simpsons characters dressed as Avengers. Okay, thanks. Come back next week, or that was it.
Well, that was it, because like they all arrived, and then it was over, and I'm like, we didn't even get like, I don't know. It's like, okay, we're gonna do this. I like in the idea of them doing more of this, but I can see why they didn't promote it more, because it would have been a bit of a disappointment. Because I think if people have been tuning in for it, they would have been. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but I wish that they had that big poster of all the characters all done up. And I'm expect nothing. Didn't they were in it for like 20 seconds, or not even 20 seconds. It was fun, but it wasn't. It didn't. I don't think it was anywhere near as good as the other previous the Maggie Simpsons, because there wasn't even a story.
I mean, the closest thing you have to a story is that Loki pretends to be Bart for a
Yeah.
short time, long enough for them to basically adopt him into the family and just be like, oh yeah, Bart got flung into the sun or something, whatever. We like Loki more anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the story. That's the closest thing to a story we have in this.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But it didn't do a lot. It was a bit
I didn't feel like it was a waste of 5 minutes, but I'm never going to watch it again. And honestly, if we talked about it next week instead of this week, I probably couldn't tell you what happened.
No. We also had a new episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch, which again was another episode with The Bad Batch barely in it. This was all about connecting it up with Star Wars Rebels, with Hera's family and what happened with that one. I'm honest, I wasn't so hot on this episode. I felt a little bit like this was just generic Star Wars 101. It didn't really... Yeah, I don't know. I just really didn't think much of this episode.
Yeah, this was definitely another episode of Filoni and the writers just being like, let's pull in this other random element that we really like, that we're attached to, and we'll stick it into the Bad Batch, and they'll encounter Hera and Chopper, and that's the story. And I definitely agree on that point where it's just like, is this the Bad Batch show, or is this the Dave Filoni's favorite characters show? Which I'd be fine with, but advertise it as that rather than as the Bad Batch. One thing I will say in favor of the episode, however, it really felt like the production value of this particular episode was amazing. Now, we've had no reason to complain about production values this season at all, but this one felt like it was on a different level. Like the scenery design, the landscape, the way they built Ryloth and the moon, the lighting that they were using, the designs, and then the framing sequences, it looked amazing. This was just a beautiful episode. But again, it's not the Bad Batch. They're in it for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, I actually got to a point of going, I was like, have they actually been in it yet? And of course, then you have like Omega and Hera kind of like have a bit of a moment and like, oh, we're friends now. Like, you've been in a room together for 2 minutes. I know that's what you can do with kids. You just chuck them around and they're best friends. But
I was gonna say they're kids. You can definitely make a best friend on the playground and then never see them ever again in your life.
So I don't know. I like again, but what I did like, it was again establishing that the Empire starting to push the boundaries, starting to push it. They're starting to push back and go, like, we want control of this place and we want control of that place. We're starting to see that coming in, and obviously we need to start building up the... I also like the fact that the clones are still working for them. You still got the drop ships. It still feels like we're at the end of the Clone Wars, because obviously Hera is still a kid, so we're 10, 15 years away from Rebels. But liking that whole aspect of the fact that they haven't just instantly just made everything, changed everything. All the ships haven't suddenly all changed overnight. They're still having that kind of connection with the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and you can still see the transition happening though, because like the ships that the clones are using, the regular clones are using, are a bit more rounded. They're a bit more of that kind of retro styling of the Clone Wars. But the ship that the Bad Batch are using, which they stole from the Imperial shipyards, of course, has the much more menacing appearance of the Imperial ships that we're used to from the original trilogy. So you can see that contrast, even though it's the hero ship because it's theirs. You can see the Imperial aesthetic versus the Clone Wars aesthetic.
Yeah, no, it's a good series. I mean, we still got about another month or so of new episodes, so hopefully it will get somewhere at some point. But still enjoying it. It was I don't know what it was, so a little bit out on this one. We also had 2 new episodes of Monsters at Work drop on Wednesday. What did you think of those 2?
So I really enjoyed the first episode quite a bit. It was fun to get back into the world and kind of set up the current status quo and the way they built into it. The second episode didn't grab me quite as much. Maybe by the ending it did, but it really felt like this was the setting the plot, and most of the first half of the episode, or first 3/4 of that episode, were really just let's move the characters into the position that we want them to be in at the end.
Yeah, it's very much like, okay, so now we've established what's going on and why you're not going to see the old characters. Here are the new ones moving forward. And I mean, like I said, I talked about it last week because I saw it in advance. It's a nice, solid show. It'll be interesting how this goes each week to week. Nice to have it on a Wednesday. Obviously, we're going to be getting that a lot more now, so we've got a little bit more stuff to watch. It's a bit of an odd one. It's a bit of I like the series. I still don't know whether or not it needed to exist. What do you think? It definitely does look like a 20-year-old Pixar movie now, doesn't it?
I'll be generous and make it 10 or 15 years, but yeah, it's not up to the current cinema
Yeah,
qualities. Not that we expected it to. I would say it looks better than the first Monsters Inc. Definitely not as good as Monsters University, but
it fits, doesn't it? You don't feel like it's not jarring at all with that.
No, it works well within what it looks like. Mike looks like you remember him. Sully looks like you remember him. What's her name?
Roz.
Betelia. Well, Roz, certainly. Celia, right? Celia.
Yeah.
It's good to see them all again. It was fun that they got the voice actors back. I actually really liked that they got the janitors back. The two little comedic sidekicks from the first movie. They were two of my favorite characters just because they're so geeky and stupid, and I'm glad that they were back.
But then this is the thing with voiceover work. It's much easier to get somebody back in to do it, because obviously they don't have to go through, getting somebody in, they don't have to fly them all over the place. They can just do it in a recording booth, and they don't have to do all the makeup. It's a lot easier for them to get them in to do a load of, they do one day's taken or a couple of days, and you can get the whole season knocked out. It's a much different kind of approach than doing. So I just like the fact that we have got Billy Crystal and John Goodman doing the voice of the cat. I think that would have been a little bit, it keeps it at that level of like, this is what very noticeable, the fact that they don't mention that Disney Television are making it, but they also, a lot of people assume that Pixar are making it. It's the amount of people, it's Pixar's first show. It's like, no, it's not theirs. They are making it. It's got nothing to do with Pixar. But I think even the quality of it's quite high. They've definitely gone in with a lot of love for this series. A lot of, they're respecting it, and 2 episodes overall, it's like, okay, this is a nice continuation.
And they did a very good job of recreating a lot of the scenes from the first movie. The scare floor or the laugh floor, depending on how you think about it, being the obvious one. But you can tell that they really did take a close look at how Monsters Inc. was designed in that first movie and stuck with that design, rather than, as you occasionally see on stuff like this, there's like, well, it's been 20 years, let's update the design for modern aesthetics. But it's like, no, this happens literally the day after the movie ends. It should not look radically different.
No, it's a good series. I'm looking forward to going on from there, where we go with this show. Nice bit of variety now. Like you say, there's a lot of variety. I mean, you look at like this, what we've got: Bad Batch, Loki, Benedict Society, Monsters of War. Nice little bit of change it. Then you throw in all the Star original stuff like Love Victor, MODOK, like Rebel.
Let's not toss MODOK in there.
Well, it's just what I'm meaning is like you just got.
I know what you mean.
You got a bit of variety. We've got War of the Worlds season 2 coming to UK next week, so that'll be again something different. We got like American Dad started here in the UK on Wednesday as well, and the latest season there. So again, a nice bit of variety.
I didn't even realize American Dad was still going.
Yeah, season 17. Season 17. I mean, I haven't watched it, I think, since season 1. I didn't gel with it when it came out like 20 years ago. I still haven't it was.
I've caught an episode here, an episode there. I think the only thing that would draw me in is if someone could like bring up a list of Patrick Stewart episodes that are worth watching, because I know he's in it.
Yeah, I was a little bit on the lines of, it's like I don't, not sure. It's like 20 weeks of it. It's like I need to give it another go, see how I get on with it. In some ways, I think I got used to Solar Opposites. It was funny because I was talking to some friends yesterday and saying, we were saying about there's not a lot of comedy around anymore. And I said, if you want comedy now, you have to look to these animated TV series, because they seem to be the only ones that seem to be able to kind of still get away with comedy that, that pokes fun at people. Because obviously, sitcoms and stuff have just stopped all of that. And I did say, I said, if you want to watch something and have a laugh, I said, things like Solar Opposites, Family Guy, I think that's basically your way of watching this kind of stuff to get some comedy right now. But no, I'm lots of different choices. Let's now, as I said, we watched anything else on Disney Plus as well? I've been saying about my Walking Dead like marathon.
I have been watching MODOK. I'm not up to the point where it's at in the UK right now. Honestly, I don't feel particularly motivated to watch it.
I haven't watched it for a few episodes. I drifted off of it. It didn't keep my attention going.
it doesn't know what it wants to be, as near as I can tell. Like, is it a comedy? Is it a depressing look at MODOK trying to claw his life back together? I honestly couldn't figure it
And
out.
also, I mean, this is the thing as well. I mean, like I say, if, we're now getting in here in the UK 10 to 12 shows a week now dropping, and it is getting to that thing of like, there are some shows that I just stopped watching, and it feels so strange. Just like, if like, I mean, obviously we were like watching everything, but now like no, right, skip that. I haven't, if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not gonna continue to watch a show I don't like to do reviews for, because I just feel like that's just, I'm only going to give it bad reviews at that point. So it's like no point, but definitely interesting. Let's now move on to the big topic of the week. And we're going to talk about Black Widow. So warning, we are going to talk about spoilers, but I think if you've seen the trailer, you know the spoilers. Because this is one of those movies where I was like, I got to them and went, wow, every single best bit of that series, of that movie, was in that trailer. It was a little bit along the lines of, I wasn't sure how little. It felt like I'd seen every scene I'd seen in that in those trailers, which was very strange. I hadn't really felt that before. And I watched it on Premier Access. I purchased it yesterday and watched it in the afternoon. Me and my wife watched it, and it was one of those things of like, I watched, and I kind of got to the end. It was like, that really could have been a Disney Plus show. And I think, having watched Marvel every week for like, it feels like for the last like 6 months, I was expecting the credits at a given point to kind of kick in, and I was like going, wow, it's like there's a couple of big scenes, but it's like we could have really done with a bit more. Like, it's weird of like coming into like MCU like after watching TV series of like, I think this movie should have come out about 4 years ago, before Endgame, and this could have been a series. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. What did you think of it?
I'm in basically the same boat. I think the best parts of this movie were just the conversation bits between the various family members. Now, as we know from the movie, they're not actually family, but it's easiest to consider them that way. So Natasha talking to Yelena talking to Red Guardian, that scene in the bedroom with Red Guardian trying to comfort Yelena, but making it all about him, was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And her calling him out on it. And those were the best bits. Now, the action scenes were pretty good, minus the odd love for slow motion, which was getting a little irritating at certain points, but they kind of dropped it off towards the end. Like, the final fights didn't have it as much. It was more noticeable in the beginning. But yeah, if you took the budget that came from like the Red Room, that whole like building that they made for the Red Room at the end, and maybe change up the prison plot a bit, there's no reason this couldn't have been a 4 to 6 episode Disney Plus series. Absolutely. Before we go further on that, I do need to tangent though. This has been bothering me all week long. So I saw it in theaters. This is my return to theater. Did not go to a theater once last year, since like 2019. And the show started at 6:15. The movie did not start until 6:45. Even by trailer standards, that's insane. 30 minutes worth of trailers on here. But the one that really got to me wasn't even a real trailer. It was a trailer for Black Widow, which, to begin with, like, what are you doing? This is the movie I'm literally here to see. It was actually a trailer for the theater. And the theater was like, isn't it so much better to watch movies in the theater? I'm like, yeah, if you'd show me the movie. I've been sitting here for 30 minutes waiting for the movie to start. And like, this is not how you get me coming back to the theater. The movie started right after that. That was the final trailer, but I was just like, what are you doing? Please don't do this.
There's always that one as well, like the advert for like the concession stand. Just get on already.
They had that one too. They had M&Ms as well. The M&M one's actually entertaining. They have good commercials, but the Coke one was definitely just like, can we move on, please? Unless you're going to attach like a coupon to this where I can get a popcorn for $2 or $3 off. I don't care about this commercial.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the tangent. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest, especially that theater trailer. It's like,
Well,
ugh.
there's been a lot of discussion in the Facebook group this week about Premier Access. A load of people for it, a load of people against it. I did it on Premier Access because ultimately we're still in partial restrictions, so you'd have to wear a mask while you're watching it, and also we still have track and trace. So if we went to it and there was somebody there, then we end up getting pinged in isolation. That's still going on for about another month or so. So it was a bit along the lines of, I went, honestly, it's not worth me going, if there's somebody there I don't know. And then it was like, it wasn't worth the risk for me to have 2 weeks of my cafe closed and all the rest of it. It was just like, no, it's not worth the risk. So watched on Premier Access, whether or not I felt like it's like, is it worth $19.99? That's in English pounds,
Right, £20, $30.
So it's like 20 quid. And I'm like, well, I would have paid, it would have been 6 quid to go to the cinema. My wife watched it as well, so I can discount. And she didn't think much of it, but she's bored of Marvel now because there's too many of them. And so therefore there's two of us. My mum and my dad is going to watch it because he's got access to my account, so I'll be telling him he can go in and watch it as well. So there's another thing. So therefore that I can get, like, there's a few of us that have watched it. I'm going to watch it again next week, and it was that kind of thing. Like, yeah, was it worth it? Yeah, we were able to sit on the couch, the dogs on us, with some treats, and we could lie out in comfort. We didn't have to sit through all the adverts. I could fast forward through the end credits to get to the end scene and save myself 10 minutes of. Didn't have to drive down to town. I'm like, there's a load of people talking about how Premier Access is great and people are loving it. There's a load of people that are loving Premier Access. A lot of people that, like, families, people that, they've got, maybe there's health issues. There's just the fact of, they just think it's cheaper. They all get the treats in. They can all sit around. They can stop it when the kid needs to pee, and then they got a load of other people that go, it's expensive. I've got no money. I can't do this. I don't want it. We should be supporting this. And it's such a wave, and there's a load of people going to cinema because the box office numbers are the highest it's been, and they're predicting just shy of 100 million box office. A lot of people are going to see it, but how does Disney Plus Premier Access kick in? We're probably not going to find that out until this experiment is all over. But I enjoyed it. I like the fact of being able to sit at home with, I got a big screen. I've got big speakers. I watched, we made an afternoon of it, and it was lovely. And it was that kind of thing. I did. I was like, I'm paying for this, so we're going to enjoy it. No phone. We're paying for it.
The older I get, the more I feel that I spent money on this. We're going to have fun whether you want to or not. I definitely agree with that. Now, I will say, as my typical spiel on this, as a single person, normally the Premier Access doesn't work for me. I live by myself. $30 just doesn't make sense. If I had got this on Premier Access, I think it would have been worth it for me. I would definitely be watching this a second time before it hits normal access on Disney, whenever that will be.
Beginning of October, I think it is.
Beginning October. I think that this would have been worth it. Now, I would not have said the same about Raya. I would not have said the same about
Cruella.
Mulan. I haven't seen Cruella yet, so I presume probably not Cruella, but I can't say for sure. Mulan was the one I was thinking of. So this one I would have, though. This one I think would have been worth it, even for myself, because I definitely would have watched it a second time. I still might, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go see Free Guy when it comes out, because the restrictions will all be over by then. But going back to Black Widow, I think there was a lot of things I liked about it. I was not so keen on the reveal of the villain, and I got no idea who Taskmaster is, so I know it's very different from the comic books.
Yes.
It was kind of obvious where they were going with it. You could see it coming a mile away, and I just thought Taskmaster was such a cool villain. Just looked great. A very kind of how they did it. I mean, almost made him look super powered, because obviously he mimics, because he was showing like Black Panther and Hawkeye, etc. I thought I really enjoyed all that aspect of it. Wasn't it enough? I would have liked a little bit more of because Black Widow, like, essentially, I mean, she fought him twice. There was only really like
Yeah, she fought him twice, and Red Guardian fought him once. But
Yeah,
of course, one of the two fights was the one from the trailer, the
yeah,
falling from the sky, jumping between
yeah,
falling buildings, absolute ridiculousness.
yeah.
Kind of couldn't suspend my disbelief all that much on that sequence, but I just kind of tried to ride it.
It would have, if it was like 4, you could believe it, because you'd be like thinking like, well, he can fly and he can, but with her just jumping from thing to thing, like, yeah, if I know when I fell out of a plane, I wasn't like, I could land there and like, oh my god.
I don't think the landing part is the problem. It's the landing at a safe speed.
Yes.
Which she did not.
No.
But whatever, we'll gloss over that one while acknowledging that it is problematic. I did feel like Taskmaster was a bit wasted on this. I would like to see a lot more with this character. Now, if they wanted to do Taskmaster traditionally, go back to the original version, I'm fine with that. If they want to continue to use this character, I'm fine with that. I think they deserve to be explored a bit more. And this is, I think, where having it be a Disney Plus series really would have been an advantage. We could have gotten to know this character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether they can reuse Taskmaster and put somebody else in it. I mean,
I don't think they would, but they have done that. Well, heck, the Legend of the Ten Rings is basically reusing that concept, because Mandarin should have been the Ten Rings, and now we're doing it with Shang-Chi's father.
Yeah, so who knows? But I mean, I did like the overall aesthetic of the character. Kind of looked like a droid, kind of robot kind of thing. Again, I'm not too familiar with the character from the comic books. I've just played, I had them in video games and stuff, and it's just always been a bit cool. But I didn't mind it. Did love, was it Red Guardian or
Red Guardian?
I mean,
not
I'm not
Crimson Dynamo, Red Guardian.
See, I wasn't really familiar. I've not really read any of the books with him in, and he hasn't really appeared in very many video games. But I enjoyed that character a lot. I really enjoyed his kind of, bitter, twisted, obsessed with Captain America. Of course, Captain America probably doesn't even know he exists. It's just like, I liked the way they did it. I like that whole aspect to him. Yenna, I thought she was great. I thought that her attitude, like the little quips, I really liked. And the pose stuff, I mean, that was so funny. Like I feel like she stole the show. Florence Pugh in this one was just great.
Honestly, both her and Red Guardian, I would love to see more of. I know that we will see her in Hawkeye. We already know she's cast, and then obviously the end credit sequence kind of cemented that. But David Harbour as Red Guardian was fantastic. I would totally watch a Disney Plus series just about him. Throw in Falcon or Captain America now and just have them do basically just redo Falcon and Winter Soldier, but instead Falcon and Red Guardian buddy cop it up. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, he just worked so well. But I really enjoyed that whole aspect with Ivana. I just really thought it's like, if you're going to set up a new Black Widow, she's different enough from Scarlett Johansson, but obviously got that connection, and obviously this is setting up the new Avengers, and I think she's going to be part of the team, obviously with Val and with the Patriot and all the rest of it. We're going to get not on the Patriot,
US agent.
So you're kind of seeing where they're going with all this. We're putting together this new team, and if she's going to be the future of the MCU for the next 10 years, I'm in. I think she did really well in this. The character, the little quips, having fun with it, but also a bit more edgy. I just thought she was a really good one. Just a great character as well, and the whole connection, obviously, with Scarlett Johansson with her, I think that worked. I still feel like this movie should have come out years ago now. It just felt like, and then it's like, we're going to do this, and then suddenly, she's now got the outfit from Avengers, and I'm like, oh, here's your top.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I know that what you're trying to do with this, but, and then her hair changes, and like 2 weeks later, I'm like, what?
Let's talk about this one, because this is my biggest problem with the movie. Not the vest, but the ending. Now, so as far as I'm concerned, the movie basically ends after they break out of the Red Room, and we have the whole falling out of the sky nonsense. You've got then William Hurt showing up as Thunderbolt Ross
Yeah.
in a completely different subplot that goes absolutely nowhere and has no impact on the movie whatsoever. Literally, the plot goes something like Black Widow goes, "We're going to call in Agent Ross to do something." I'm like, okay, Ross is going to show up. He's going to be important in the final battle. No, he literally shows up after the battle is done, arrests Black Widow. Maybe doesn't even happen on screen, but presumably he does because she sticks around and waits for him because well, I don't get why. And then literally right after that, it's like 2 weeks later, she's not in prison. She's got her hair cut. It's bleached blonde. She's got the vest and she's talking openly about breaking into the raft and breaking people out. And like, we skipped some major important plot points here.
It was a bit along the lines. It would have made more sense had she jumped in a ship and escaped and then said, "I'm going to go rescue." Like, we didn't need. They could have done that. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, like you say, that ending felt a bit jarring, and obviously we had the post-end credit scene, which again was a bit like, yeah. Like, obviously this movie should have come out last year, and then we would have had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which might have made a little bit more sense with how. But then that would have been made sense if I don't know if they reshot the ending for this one, because obviously Val's entrance in Falcon and the Winter Soldier was so much better than it was in this one.
Well, but it's hard to gauge how this would have gone if we didn't know who Val was moving into this. If that had been the introduction to the character, and to have Julie Louis-Dreyfus there out of the blue, like, whoa, what is Elaine from Seinfeld or whatever the character's name from Veep is doing here, and what is she doing with the new Black Widow? But of course, because we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier first, we go, oh, she's putting together a Thunderbolt style team or Dark Avengers. So we already know who the character is. I am curious too if they changed the sequence or if they had something else intended, if this had come out back in the beginning of 2020 like it was supposed to. I don't think we'll get an answer to that, but it was a bit underwhelming as an end credit sequence for that.
But it also might explain why we've not seen anything of Hawkeye. If they had to get Black Widow out, and maybe that was why they were like, Black Widow has to come out at a certain point. We can't, otherwise we're going to have to delay Hawkeye. But well, I mean, definitely sets that one up. You know, you have to do.
But at the same time, it's not like it was anything particularly noteworthy. It's just like, here's your target. And it's like, okay, cool. There's no reason we couldn't have seen like a Hawkeye trailer before this. I presume they're actually holding it back because they want to start the hype closer to when Hawkeye actually comes out.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've got to focus now on Black. You know, they've got like 4 things before that comes out.
Yeah, we've got 2 movies. What If? Possibly some other small projects.
Well, I mean, we got What If? We got Loki to finish off. Then they've got Shang-Chi. Then we're gonna have Hawkeye. Then Eternals, and then probably Miss Marvel. Or Miss Marvel, then Hawkeye, one of the two. So you've kind of got a lot of. I think Hawkeye is full. I think that one is going to be the next series. But yeah, it's definitely. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It did feel a little bit like we're getting to the end of it, and it was like, okay, is this whether this big like the big baddie just gets like killed in a fireball? It would have been
that was a little unsatisfying.
It would have been nice had like Black Widow actually done it. I mean, the whole thing with her, like, I mean, it's useless now. She can't taste anything. You know, she literally ruined for the rest of her life being able to eat because she set her nose. To
be fair, she's only got like 2 years left.
Yeah, so she's never going to enjoy much. So no. So that I mean, I kind of like that aspect of the fact that she like outwitted him a little bit of like pre-planned what she was doing. There's a load of great fight scenes. I would have loved this movie to have been out before Endgame. It doesn't feel like it was a good kickoff to Phase 4, and it isn't for us because we've had 3 series ahead of it. And also, and it might sound really strange. I know Falcon and the Winter Soldier was very grounded, and I think Black Widow was very grounded as well. But I think with WandaVision and Loki at the minute, and having this like weekly episode thing of us getting used to having these little short clips of the MCU, it was a bit like kind of ending and going, well, are we having another one next week? I could have done with Black Widow Part 2 next week. That was my one little thing of it, but yeah.
So I wouldn't have minded it coming out after Endgame, regardless. I think you're right, though. It probably would have made more sense coming out right after Civil War, honestly.
Yeah.
But um, if this had come out before the Disney Plus shows, so even before WandaVision came out, if it had come out when it was expected to come out, I think I would have liked it a lot more.
Yeah.
But having gotten that taste of what the longer form storytelling can do, especially for smaller characters, it does feel like it's not quite up to the same par of what we expect from Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki, WandaVision, simply because as I'm watching the movie, as I said earlier, I'm like, I want to know more about these characters. I want to see more of Red Guardian. I want to see more of Yelena. I want to even want to see more of Rachel Weisz's character. Sure, they probably wouldn't have added too much because she's supposed to be mysterious. You're not sure about her motives, etc. But that has been the strength of the Disney Plus series. We get to meet these characters. We get to get into their heads. They don't get the screen time they deserve in movies, and they do get them in the Disney Plus shows. And if they, obviously you can't retroactively like unshoot the movie or anything, but if they had been able to divert the budget for the special effects in the prison and the Red Room, they could have easily turned this into a 6-episode series.
I mean, I think the whole thing of like having Black Widow as a movie was fine. I feel like we should have had it before Infinity War. We needed this before Infinity War. That was the key thing. It should have been out. It felt a little bit weird of like going back as well, of like going, this is set after they kind of set it up, or set after Civil War, like, and then they kind of, now I'm going off to rescue them. Yeah, and then now you're dead. And I'm like, okay, I know it's like a prequel, but it's a prequel sequel. It was like, trying to explain that like to people. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely feel like I enjoyed it. And there's loads of things in there that I want to watch again. I'm going to go back and watch it. There's some great scenes, but it was like that whole like rooftop scene. It's like, I've seen this. It got to the end of it, and I feel like, and the chase scene, it was like, so much of it had been shown in the trailer, and like even her just standing there at the end and doing the hero pose of like, wow, they really showed a lot in that opening trailer that kind of gave away pretty much every major scene in this movie.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. Obviously the details are still within the movie, but it's not the kind of movie that's going to throw you for a lot of twists. It's not trying to. It's not a movie that thinks it's smart and isn't. It's a movie that knows exactly what it is, but it's not going to twist you up. In many ways, though, that is kind of what you want going back to the theaters, though. You want the comfort popcorn movie. Don't have to think too hard about it. Don't have to, follow the twists and the turns. You just go, I'm going to go watch Scarlett Johansson smack a whole bunch of people around. We're going to have the trademark funny moments from Marvel. There'll be some good action sequences. There'll be some set sequences. And we're good to go. We don't need to go too deep on it.
It's kind of funny because I don't think I wouldn't expect it. Kind of was like one of the more funnier, is like kind of in the Ant-Man Guardians territory, of that humor in there. There's a lot more humor than I was expecting.
To be honest, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, and Harbor together in a series. I take it back. That's the series I want. I want Ant-Man and Red Guardian. Those two bouncing off each other.
Yeah,
it's got to be funny. I would hope so. At least that's what I want. I want Ant-Man and Red Guardian.
So there we go. So that was this week's like I said, loads of stuff to watch, loads of stuff to talk about. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time out and listening to us today. Make sure you go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com. Let us know in the comments below what you've been watching and what you thought of all of this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you again to all of our supporters, and you can become one over on Patreon or on our YouTube channel membership. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Later.